definitely getting much, much better. And it was rough for a while, but almost able to extend it out entirely now. It's maybe an inch of give left in it. And, you can see there, that's my healthy elbow. That's my non-healthy elbow, so it's still got a little bit of a bend in it. Doesn't want to give up, but feeling much better now, thankfully. All right. Well, I'm back for a minute. We'll see what happens. I don't know if what I fixed is gonna help or not, but we'll see. Gunnar, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Yeah, Crystal, it's the I don't know what is wrong. It seems to be that OBS is giving issues letting the portals be open, so I'm trying to sort it right now. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna give it a minute to balance out and see if anything works. It's still telling me that I am dropping frames. Yeah, you guys need a sound that pops up my head. Uh, all right. How's it looking? Are we still glitching across everything? Are we still having problems? It seems to have balanced out for me a little bit, but I don't know if that's true. It's good on TikTok. Yeah, TikTok is stable. It's definitely a problem with Streamlabs. There's a problem with Streamlabs. That's what's going on. Being a royal pain in my backside is what it is. So far, so good on YouTube. Yeah, it's still showing me that the bitrate is in the toilet for Twitch. So we'll see if that means anything. Also, Erin, thank you for the 7 stream streak, girl. I appreciate you. If you would, if you go, Tony, hello, welcome in, brother, good to see you. Oh, Brian, I didn't see all of those gifts coming. I was distracted by everything. But thank you for the heart me, the roses, the heart puffs, and the finger hearts, my friend. I appreciate you for that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. I spend too much time here and in Matty's. Well, if you feel like you spend too much time on the internet, that is understandable. But I don't think it's possible to spend too much time in the tavern. It's always good times in the tavern. One more day, my Christmas decorations go up. Frost, thank you for the water, my friend. I appreciate you. Alright, bitrate looks like it's balanced out on my end a little bit. Still not spectacular, but it's looking much, much steadier. I feel that, Gunnar. I feel that. Every day is a good day in the tavern. Gotta eat my turkey before decorations go up. I don't want to take it your way. See, this what a lot of people I know. A lot of people are what you refer to as spooky bitches in our life. And what the spooky bitches tend to do is they will, and you'll pardon my French, they tend to do spooky Christmas stuff. So like Nightmare Before Christmas, Christmas stuff. So that way the spooky doesn't have to end. You're most welcome. Gotta take care of the tavern keeper and fill your brain with tales and lore. By the way, have you decided on the Mordukanen? Yes, actually, I'll be sometime next month. I added it to the roster for getting a story out next in the next run of stories. I'm considering putting Santa hats on my floating pumpkin. See, there you go. Cindy, hello, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. Grab a seat, settle in. Esther, hey, I just got back and I think your live stream kept cutting in and out, which made it challenging to follow. It did. We're having technical difficulties again. Christy, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. Drew, welcome in, brother. Welcome, welcome. All right, how's it looking across the board, friends? Christmas is not acceptable until after Thanksgiving. When you celebrate a feast and curse the plague-giving colonizers. I always find that story is very, I don't want to say funny, because the folks who came who were a part of the first Thanksgiving were not a part of the disease spreading that came from, because the whole first Thanksgiving was between like the Pilgrims, the Puritans, and then later on the smallpox blanket thing was with the Spaniards. So it was two completely separate things, but for some reason they get conflated quite a bit. Exciting news, Halloween has arrived here in Australia today. A hell of a time. Nice. I was thinking, I like the one about the king whose thigh bone washed up in the sun after an encounter with one. Send me that as a reminder, and I'll see if I can squeeze it into the story. Castle, everything's come together nicely, smooth net flow and crystal clear sound make for an excellent setup. Wonderful. How do we look across the board, friends? Are we looking good? Am I able to start back up again? Do we think? It's looking fairly stable on my end. It's not as rough as it was, so we should be all right. Good hit on TikTok. Wonderful. All right. I'd say give it a go. You missed a couple of pages, but so did everybody else because we're having technical difficulties. So I'm currently slaying demons in Doom Dark Ages. I love the lore of Doom. I don't particularly care for Doom Dark Ages. Feels too on rails for me, but I love the lore of Doom. Doom is such a good story. I like it a lot. All right. Let's go ahead and get started, my friends. Oh, good thing I waffled for a bit because now TikTok is trying to boot us off. They just don't want you guys to get stories tonight. There is some. Yeah, my wife is Puerto Rican, native descendant of the Taino from yeah. So we always do what we can with the feast to celebrate those that were hurt by the colonization of the Spaniards. I also don't give Christopher Columbus his day because Leif Erikson was here first. and left the place alone. That's another one that gets really mixed up. Is the whole thing? I was shocked. I didn't realize that this was something that people believed about Christopher Columbus, because obviously in a lot of like early American literature, Christopher Columbus is lauded as like this hero, right? And he's definitely not a hero figure, but he's also often painted as like a mega villain, and that's also not really the case. It sort of falls somewhere in between. Now, the first two trips that Columbus made to the Americas, he was very 16 whole months. Marina, thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Some ghostly hijinks are going on, yes. They need to learn not to interrupt Storytime. They do. The ghosts and the gremlins, they get all up in here. Well, I have to hop off here. My phone is about to die. Alright, Brian, I appreciate you. It's always good to see you, my friend. And we'll catch you around. So far, not too many pauses, but that could be my laptop. Well, it's staying fairly level on my end, but we'll see. But with Christopher Columbus, his first two trips to the Americas, one, he didn't think that it was India, because and a lot of people, Columbus, as far as I know, was about trade, connecting the two continents. But in the middle of the two trips, those that stayed are the ones that started to cause problems. So something like that. I'm sorry, glad you're on tonight. No, it's wonderful. Stay bloodthirsty, Brian. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Or if you're gonna pop in somewhere else, we'll look forward to seeing you then. So basically what happened with Christopher Columbus was he was not a leader of any kind. And he ended up getting himself into a situation that was less than ideal, we'll say, and a lot of people got hurt because of it. So what essentially happened was his first two trips here, Columbus praised the natives, especially the Taino people. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I can never remember. Is it Taino? Is it Taino or Taino? I believe that that's correct. Peoples in like Puerto Rico, and he praised them as being like very Taino. Okay, Taino. He praised them as being, very civil and kind, and he had contrasted them to some of the more warlike tribes that were found on the mainland, as being like overwhelmingly civil and kind and accommodating. And what ended up happening is that the King and Queen of Spain had put him in charge of the plantations there. And what ended up happening is a lot of the Spaniards who came were high-ranking Spaniards, and they wanted to have land, and they wanted to have slaves, and they wanted to be in charge of things. And Columbus was trying his very best to keep things in line. He was trying to keep everybody happy and in order. And he was not a skilled leader. He wasn't. So he ended up basically becoming a dictator of sorts on the island. And the Spaniards hated him for it, and the Taino people hated him for it, because he ended up being a bastard to everybody. And a lot of people will say, oh, he was arrested and taken back to Spain because of the atrocities he committed against the natives. That didn't end up being the case. What he got arrested for was his tyranny over the Spaniards. And don't get me wrong, he did do a lot of bad stuff there. Like a lot of people got hurt. Not a lot of people died, as far as I know. People did die, but not a lot of people died in contrast. But he was basically beating the locals and the Spaniards into submission, trying to keep everybody happy. And the Spaniards who lived on the island ended up reporting him to the crown, and he ended up getting arrested and taken back to Spain. And then the Spanish royalty then ended up excusing it. They pardoned him, and he got to go on 2 more expeditions after that. So the whole story around Columbus, it's weird how mixed up it's gotten over the years. because you got some people telling this story of him as like this genocidal bastard, and then you have people over here who tell this story of him where he's this American hero, and neither one of those things is particularly true. It falls somewhere in the middle, and I said not give him a spanking. Bad behavior shouldn't be rewarded. But yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing because Columbus is definitely a contentious figure now. But when you read the actual history, yes, the lengths that he went to over the area that he was in charge of was definitely extreme, even for the time when a lot of people who were colonizing different areas were being extreme. It was extreme even for that. But what he got in trouble for was being an extreme dictator over Spaniards. Uh, anyways, I got off on a bit of a ramble there. I apologize. You have to go to the source materials, Gunner, because a lot of the history books that end up getting written will have a bias one way or another. Like if you go to early American history, like you go say the 1940s, 50s, 60s, you get a history book there. Columbus is a hero who discovered America. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? And you sort of get like the watered down version of what was happening. After I saw this guile towards Columbus, I looked up some of the more recent history books, and it's basically that he's this monstrous bastard who's a terrible, awful person. And the best thing that you can do is go look at the records of how do you find source history. It's hard nowadays. It's very difficult, but you have to essentially go and look for. I saw your other comment, Esther. I'll get to it in a second. Uh, wait, what? You went on a ramble? I know, I'd do it. I got to see one of the anchors from Columbus's ships in Haiti, but I was not allowed to take pictures. Well, that's a bummer. Ashley, thank you for the booze. I appreciate you for that. Uh, the more I learn, the more I think Columbus was a crown-sponsored pirate. Sort of. That's more or less he was trying to establish trade. And again, a lot of people think that he thought that that the Indians get called Indians because of India. That's not true. At the time, India was called Hindustan. So that's another silly thing that gets perpetuated across history, which is just very strange. But Columbus was in the early parts one of the better people who came from Spain, because you have people like Hernan Cortez, who was a royal bastard. Hernan Cortez was an actual conqueror, whereas Columbus was a merchant, and which he was never should have been. Indi no, I believe it means Indios, which I think means good people. I don't remember exactly. But hang on, give me a second. I'll grab it for you. I actually haven't. I was gonna do a video on this. I'm not sure if I actually will though. Let me look through my documents real quick. He wanted trade, and well, he wanted trade, but he also believed that uh well, as we should always recognize what goes on in history. But being honest about it is the most important thing, to tell the stories. Um, right. So Columbus called the Taino peoples, by their noble appearance and interpreting them as divinely inspired, he called them Indios, which means in God. So the he was calling them good people. He was calling them noble people. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate you. So, in his letters, Columbus referred to the Taino people as en Dios, which means in God. Yeah, I know. I see your comment. I saw your comment, Esther. I was gonna get back to it. I still have it up here. Well, we were. I was clearing through something else. You said Christopher Columbus was a renowned navigator. Yes, he was. Set sail under Spain's banner. He was an Italian and forever changed the history of exploring America. While many hail from discovering America, the truth is more complex. His daring voyages across the Atlantic not only opened the New World, but also paved the way for European colonization. Profound impact that followed. Yes, and a lot of people like to credit Leif Erikson, but Leif Erikson came in to what we would know as Newfoundland, which is up in Canada, and Columbus came in through a lower part of it in North America. So they found different parts of North America. And what Misplaced Appalachian said about him being a crown-sponsored pirate is sort of correct. He was trying to establish new trade routes and friendly relations. He did think he was going to find India, but he didn't believe that he ended up in India. Again, he called the native peoples of the Taino people en Dios, which means in God. He believed them to be a very noble and upright people. And then, they would go further inland, and actually, I believe on the same island, there was a group of cannibals. And Columbus, during his second voyage, had left behind a bunch of Spaniards, and when they came back, a bunch of those Spaniards were dead, as well as a bunch of the Taino people and Taino people. And when he returned, that other tribe, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, had eaten a bunch of the Taino people as well as a bunch of the Spaniards. So that also was part of what gave way to how Columbus ended up managing that island. And again, he went too far. It was not great, not good what he did. Marina, thank you for the combos. I didn't even know what that was, but thank you for the combos. I appreciate you. Yeah, India was called Hindustan in the time, so it's one of those things that gets spread and is just like not remotely true. It's not based on anything except for, yeah. I love history too, Esther. I love history too. So Christopher Columbus is a very contentious figure, but a lot of people don't actually understand what happened during Columbus's time. And a lot of people exclude things like we don't talk about religion and politics here in the tavern in modern day, but if you're not looking at the history through a religious and political lens, you have no idea what's going on. You're missing a major contextual aspect of it. But thank you so much. You got us to a level 3 combo. I don't even know what that means, but you got us to a level 3 combo, and I appreciate that. Thank you kindly, love. Your tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Thank you kindly. I did a presentation on cannibalism in college, and it was likely the reason behind tribal cannibalism. It was fun. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like we don't ever hear about the morning wars. We don't hear about the cannibalism. We don't hear about a lot of these things which were really important in the time, and like the religious tensions that were going on in Europe and in the Near and Far East at the time. There's a lot of things that don't get brought up that are very important contextually for why things happen, right? Destiny, thank you for the bits, love. I appreciate you for that. Thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. And now you guys started a hype train. I'm going to get back to reading. Quirt, thank you. Thank you for adding to the combo. I appreciate you guys. Again, I don't even know what that means, but I appreciate it. Well, yeah, he dropped off strangers in their land like some tropical fight club. Yeah, well, and to be fair to what was happening at the time, the Taino people were very welcoming to the Spaniards, and they got along pretty well. This other tribe was constantly fighting with the Taino people and trying to kill them. So, again, the nuances of those things are important to remember. That doesn't justify any of the bad things that the Spaniards, especially that the Spaniards did in North America. But the context is important, right? It was a different time. There were different things going on, and it's important to remember context because we like to look back with sort of this God's eye. Thank you. So level 7 combo again. I don't even know what that means, but level 2 hype train, level 7 combo. Thank you, my friends. I appreciate you for that. We like to look backwards at history with a God's eye because we know now that what was going on then was wrong. But a lot of times you're living in a time where you're choosing between two bad things, right? And it's like when you look at looking at Europe between like 1400 and 1800, or even just like 1100 and 1600, you look at Europe in that time, and then you look at like what happened afterwards, and a lot of it starts to make a whole lot more sense. My screen is now full of hearts. Yeah, you blew. I'd never seen one of those combos before. That was really cool. Thank you for tipping the tavern keeper, Marina. I appreciate you guys. That's amazing. Life in the olden days was brutal. It was, Cindy, it was. And we like to look back from our modern perspective and sort of judge in retrospect. And it doesn't do history. It doesn't do history justice for us to look back and think about how much smarter we are now. But looking back at the context and then appreciating all of the things that happened between then and now to get us where we are makes things in the world make a lot more sense. Which is why when I tell stories, I don't pick a side. I always just tell the story as it is to the best of my knowledge, so that anybody who is hearing it will go, oh, so that's what was going on. That's what happened. That's what the story is. And some stories, there's no center of them. Like some folklore, there's no common folklore for it. There's hundreds and hundreds of versions of these stories. So sometimes they're just told for the lesson. They're told for fun. Some folklore is insane, and there's... Marina, thank you for you're being way too generous tonight. Thank you kindly. Enjoy your eggs of Astara, even though we're in wintertime. We need a new tavern fare, my love. No, it's alright. I just realized we're so far away from Astara, we're eating Astara eggs right now. Thank you for the level 2 hype train, friends. You're very, very kind. Thank you for that. Kulos, hello. Hey guys, been a long time no here. YouTube has been bad about notations. Big news on the side of my book I've been working on has been picked up by Royal Guard Publishing. Congratulations, my friend. That's wonderful news. Spectacular. All right, guys. That's enough. I appreciate all of the tips to the tavern givers too much. Marina, Quirt, and Destiny, thank you so much. It's very, very kind of you all. We're good. I have to give you what I believe your time is worth. It means the world. Thank you so much for it. I appreciate you. Your generosity is deeply appreciated. Thank you so much. The lady and I both appreciate it. I completely lost what we were talking about. But, alright, let's get back to stories. Oh, now we gotta run ads on Twitch again. Damn it. Destiny, calm down. Thank you for the what is it, for 500 bits. Thank you, Destiny. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Well, now I'm not. Alright. Gosh darn you. Alright, we gotta run ads for our Twitch friends real quick, and then we'll start Storytime again. Good lord. You guys are insane. Absolute lunatics, all of you. But yeah, I just finished the sequel for my first book, The Last Fey Queen, and the sequel to The Exiled King. Wonderful, that's spectacular. You know better than to say that to me. Yeah, I should by this point know better than to tell you not to. But we're good. You guys are all wonderful. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated, never required. And now I'm not telling you to stop, but I am strongly encouraging stopping. How about that? Yeah. But yeah, I love history and I love the old myths and stuff. I wish more people would talk about them in a less emotional way, because it does far more justice to the stories if we just tell them. What was that? Just 65 individual bits from Destiny. I love seeing you with the gift shop. It warms my heart. I appreciate you very much, Marina. I find Twitter a bit frustrating because of all the ads. Luckily, Facebook, there's no ads at all. Yeah, if I could shut the ads off on Twitch, I would. Unfortunately, it's the most stable and the best platform for doing these live story times, so. She's throwing pennies at you. She's making it hail, that's what they call it. She's making it hail. Rather than making it rain. Making it hail. I enjoy the randomness of your content. You never know what you're going to discuss. I just, yeah, it's just storytelling, Nate. I try to keep it interesting for you guys. Now Quart's making it here. Threw 49 pennies at me. Thank you. I'm wondering, how do you explain tech to old people? It depends on how willing the old person is to listen, Matty. The book Royal Guard picked up was A Touch of Enchantment. That's spectacular, Carlos. I'm glad to hear it. If you can, send me a message with a link to the book and I'll give it a look. Or if you when it's ready to come out, I guess I should say. This is the tavern at its finest, right? Just people throwing pennies at the tavern keeper while I'm talking randomly about history. Crystal, thank you for the stars, love. Again, tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. You guys are absolutely wild. Yes, the random brands are the best. Well, and I love getting to talk about all of these things with you because these first of all, these stories are very important. But second of all, drinks all around. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you, my friend. Honestly, I've had these bits sitting here for like 3 years. Got tired of seeing the number. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you kindly. Yeah, it's just important to tell the stories, you know? And I try to keep them entertaining for everybody so you guys enjoy them. One thing, probably the best compliment I've ever gotten whilst the lady and I have done this is when people drop into comments and say, I wish you had been my history teacher. Because that is a hell of a compliment. I like thinking that something that you found boring before, I have made you feel interested in. Now Marina's throwing pennies. Thank you. It's popping up as Kulos. Oh, it's Sage. Okay, well that makes more sense. But you're showing your name as Kulos over on. It says Kulos 4. And I didn't see your picture. Okay, Sage, how's it going, bud? Well, we've been talking for a minute. But congratulations on the book getting picked up. Yeah, your name is popping up as Kulos 4 for me. Yeah, Sage, no. I Sage now. Yeah, I know who you are. But your name in the chat is popping up as Kulos. In the mixed chat as well. All right, you guys got a new emote, appropriate one too. Look at that. Respectfully, no. Thank you guys for the level 3 hype train. Thank you guys for that over on Twitch. It's wonderful. What's your heritage again, Castle? So, Castle, you can come on here and talk about history, and everybody would love it. Cal, I appreciate you, Cindy. Yeah. So originally, I was born in the United States. At 6 months old, I went to live with my grandfather in Ireland, and our family are biologically, genetically, however you want to put it, we're genetically Norwegian and Irish. So my father is Irish and Norwegian, and my mother is Scottish and Irish. And I grew up in Ireland. I lived in Ireland until I was about 14 years old, and then I moved back to the States with my parents. And I lived kind of all over Ireland, and I lived for a little bit in Norway, and I traveled a lot with my grandfather to like the Middle East and Asia when I was a young man. Ashley, thank you for the goat and for the pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin pie, I'll tell you right now. I love me some pumpkin pie. I love history classes by Yeah, that is weird. I don't because it's I'm not crazy, right? Everyone else is seeing Sage's name pop up as Kulos 4, Kullos 4. Castle, I truly enjoy your stories and the history you share. It's always fascinating. I enjoy your little tidbits you drop in, Esther. My son is listening, hears your accent in your voice. I don't hear it though. I Americanize a lot when I'm on here, and everybody's trying to convince me to stop doing that. But I have a strange sort of southern Irish accent that's combined with a little bit of Norwegian, like in northern Norway, and then I get a lot of American in there because I've lived in America for 2 decades, and it's found it easier to Americanize rather than try to get people to understand me. Ashley, thank you for all the pumpkin pie love. I appreciate you for that. Thank you kindly. Pumpkin pie is the best. The last weekend I discovered pumpkin pie hummus. That's 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 a wild sentence you just said, Jessica. Pumpkin pie hummus, huh? Bear, you've never had pumpkin pie? Oh, we need to have pumpkin pie. Marina, thank you, and Court, Marina, and Destiny, thank you for all the bits, friends. I appreciate you. Yeah, but originally from Ireland, Lily. That's I was born in the U.S., but the accent is from Ireland. Though I don't sound traditionally Irish, not even a little bit. I sound a little bit like people from Ossory and a little bit like people from northern Limerick. But for the most part, my accent is just people in my family talk like I do, but our accent is very uncommon, very uncommon. Bear, I will make you pumpkin pie. And said Cristalla is going to send you a pumpkin pie all the way to Australia. Bear, you got a pumpkin pie incoming. Castle, I genuinely enjoy your Irish accent. It's really charming. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you for that. I make my own pumpkin pie filling. Everyone sees jack-o'-lanterns, I see pies. As you should, Nate. A homemade pumpkin pie is a hell of a thing, I'll tell you that. Genu voice, choo choo, yeah. Oh, all right, friends. Let's get back to reading. I have waffled long enough, I think. Hmm? Wait. Oh, yeah. Of course, I'll wait for that. I appreciate you, Marie. It's very, very kind, very generous of you. Thank you very much. I genuinely hope that what the lady and I provide is worth all of that love. I genuinely do. Pumpkin pie cheesecake is pretty good, Sage. Pumpkin pie cheesecake is pretty good. That's why I enjoy eating pumpkin pie during the winter. It's absolutely fun. Yeah, you just got to cover it, smother it in whipped cream, and it's the best. My mom was known for her pumpkin cake. My brother's birthday is next month, just before American Thanksgiving, and we always make him pumpkin pie rather than cake. Pumpkin pie hummus sounds like it could be wonderful or terrible, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, it sounds like one of those things where it's either very good or really bad. I used to make a mean cheesecake, and pumpkin pie was one of the better flavors. Yeah, berry cheesecakes and pumpkin pie cheesecake I do enjoy. Kodabu and Milo are all doing well. Milo is getting gigantic. He's going to be the size of a tiger by the middle of next year. I'm not going to have any place for him. Alright, let's get reading, friends. I want to get you the rest of the story. I live in the wrong country for pumpkin pie. I put a stick and mushroom pie in front of me, and it'll disappear. I'll join you on that, Bear. I'll join you on that. Castle in the tavern making me crave dessert. As we do. As we always do. Alright, friends, let's get back to the story. When we last left off before everything went to hell, we were in the upper floor of Grimold Place, and Harry was talking with Hermione and Ron about the picture and letter that he had just found from his mom to Sirius. Steak and mushroom pie all day. Can't figure out why is showing up as I don't know. I don't know, Sage. It's very odd. Because there, now that I'm looking at it, Tyson's name, which normally shows up as Cormac, he's showing up as Tyson Straga, which is his name, but yeah, I don't know why. It's an odd thing. Michael, hello, my friend. Welcome in. Grab a seat, settle in by the bar. Come in from the cold, Raiders. Come in from the cold. I'll give you a little toot on the raid horn. We're going to get back to reading here in just a second. So, I'm going to give you guys a toot on the raid horn. Settle in, settle in, settle in. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Come in, come in, come in. Settle down. All right. All the Viking raspberries. All right. So, Harry was explaining that Bathilda Bagshot was the neighbor and friend of his family. My name comes up as Cormac on Twitch. I'm on YouTube while I'm heading home. Right, it's... yeah, that is fixed. Sage. I guess it must just have been a YouTube update of some kind that did something. I don't know. Could be anything. Alright, let's continue. I'll just start from the top of this page. I'll start from the top of this page so that so whatever was missed is not going to be terribly missed. Got a raid and Ron, thanks for streaming tonight. Have a happy Halloween tomorrow. Good night, Michael. Thank you for the raid, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your night. May your Halloween be spooky but not too spooky, and may you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Rest well and rise tomorrow ready to conquer the damn day. Much love from the tavern, and off you go. Well then, said Harry, keen to discuss his theory. What about information on Dumbledore? The second page of this letter, for instance. You know, this Bathilda my mom mentioned. You know who she is? Who? Bathilda Bagshot, the author of A History of Magic, said Hermione, looking interested. So your parents knew her? She was an incredible magical historian. And she's still alive, said Harry. And she lives in Godric's Hollow. Ron's Auntie Muriel was talking about her at the wedding. She knew Dumbledore's family too. She's pretty interesting to talk to. She'd be pretty interesting to talk to, wouldn't she? There was a little too much understanding in the smile that Hermione gave him for Harry's liking. He took back the letter and the photograph and tucked them inside the pouch around his neck, so as not to have to look at her and give himself away. I understand why you'd love to talk to her about your mum and dad, and Dumbledore too, said Hermione. But that wouldn't really help us in our search for Horcruxes, would it? Harry did not answer, and she rushed on. Harry, I know you really want to go to Godric's Hollow, but I'm scared. I'm scared at how easily those Death Eaters found us yesterday. It just makes me feel more than ever that we ought to avoid places where your parents are buried. I'm sure they'd be expecting you to visit. It's not just that, said Harry, still avoiding looking at her. Muriel said stuff about Dumbledore at the wedding. I want to know the truth. He told Hermione everything that Muriel had told him. When he had finished, Hermione said, Of course, I can see that's upset you, Harry. I'm not upset, he lied. I just want to know whether or not it's true, or... Harry, do you really think you'll get the truth from a malicious old woman like Muriel or Rita Skeeter? How can you believe them? You knew Dumbledore. Thought I did, he muttered. But you know how much truth there was in everything Rita wrote about you. Doja's right. How can you let those people tarnish your memories of Dumbledore? He looked away, trying not to betray the resentment he felt. That it was a game. Choose what to believe. He wanted the truth. Why was everybody so determined that he should not get it?
Shall we go down to the kitchen?
Hermione suggested after a little pause.
Find something for breakfast.
He agreed, but grudgingly, and he followed her out onto the landing and past the second floor that led off it. There was deep scratch marks in the paintwork below the small sign that he had not noticed in the dark. He paused at the top of the stairs and read it. It was a pompous little sign, neatly lettered by hand, and the sort of thing that Percy Weasley might have stuck outside of his room.
Do not enter without express permission of Regulus Arcturus Black.
Excitement trickled through Harry, but he was not immediately sure why. He read the sign again. Hermione was already a flight of stairs below him.
Hermione,
he said, and he was surprised that his voice was so calm.
Come back up here. What's the matter? R.A.B. I think I found it.
There was a gasp, and then Hermione ran back up the stairs.
In your mum's letter, but I didn't see...
Harry shook his head and pointed at Regulus's side. She read it, then clutched Harry's arm so tightly that he winced.
Sirius's brother,
she whispered. He was a Death Eater, said Harry. Sirius told me about it. He joined up when he was really young and then got cold feet and tried to leave. So they killed him.
That fits,
gasped Hermione.
If he was a Death Eater, he had access to Voldemort. And if he became disenchanted, then he would have wanted to bring Voldemort down.
She released Harry, leaned over the banister and screamed,
Ron! Ron! Get up here, quick!
Ron appeared, panting a minute later, his wand ready in his hand.
What's up? If it was a massive spider again, I want breakfast before I...
He frowned at the sign on Regulus's door, to which Hermione was silently pointing.
What? That was Sirius's brother, wasn't it? Regulus Arcturus... R.A.B.! The locket! You don't reckon... Let's find out,
said Harry, and he pushed on the door. It was locked. Hermione pointed her wand at the handle and said,
Hello, Remora.
There was a click and the door swung open. They moved over the threshold together, gazing around. Regulus's bedroom was slightly smaller than Sirius's, though it had the same sense of former grandeur. But as Sirius had sought to advertise his difference from the rest of the family, Regulus had striven to emphasize the opposite. The slithering colours of emerald and silver were everywhere, draping the bed. The walls and windows and black family crest was painstakingly painted over the bed, along with its motto, Toujours pure. Beneath this was a collection of yellow newspaper cuttings, all stuck together from ragged collage. Hermione crossed the room to examine them.
They're all about Voldemort,
she said.
Regulus seems to have been a fan for a few years before he joined the Death Eaters.
Cindy, thank you kindly. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Drew, you said, need to work on your breath support. I sent you a video of a horn played by someone who played trumpet for 15 plus years. Well, thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. Did you overheat it? I'm going to have steak for Christmas this year, turning into our Christmas meal. That sounds delicious, Teresa. A little puff of dust rose from the bed covers as she sat down to read the clippings. Harry, meanwhile, had noticed another photograph. A Hogwarts British team was smiling and waving out of the frame. He moved closer and saw snakes emblazoned on their chests. Slytherins. Regulus was instantly recognizable as the boy sitting in the middle of the front row. Had the same dark hair and slightly haughty look of his brother, though he was smaller, slighter, and rather less handsome than Sirius had been.
He played Seeker, said Harry. What? Said Hermione vaguely, as she was still immersed in Voldemort's press clippings. He's sitting in the middle of the front row. That's where the Seeker... Never mind, said Harry, realizing that nobody was listening. Ron was on his hands and knees, searching under the wardrobe. Harry looked around the room for unlikely hiding places and approached the desk. Yet again, somebody had searched before them. The drawer's contents had been turned over recently. The dust disturbed, and there was nothing of value. Old quills, out-of-date textbooks that bore evidence of being roughly handled, a recently smashed ink bottle, its sticky residue covering the contents of the drawer. There's an easier way, said Hermione as Harry wiped his inky fingers on his jeans. She raised her wand and said, Accio locket. Nothing happened. Ron, who had been searching the folds of the faded curtains, looked disappointed. Is that it then? No, it's not here. Oh, it could still be here, but under counter charms, said Hermione. Charms to prevent it being summoned magically, you know. Like Voldemort put on the stone basin in the cave, said Harry, remembering how he'd been unable to summon the fake locket. How are we supposed to find it then? Asked Ron. We search manually, said Hermione. That's a good idea, said Ron, rolling his eyes, and he resumed his examination of the curtains. As they combed through every inch of the room for more than an hour, but were forced finally to conclude that the locket was not there. The sun had risen now, its lights dazzled them even through the grimy landing windows. It could be somewhere else in the house, though, said Hermione in a rallying tone as they walked back downstairs. As Harry and Ron had become more discouraged, she seemed to become more determined. Whether he'd managed to destroy it or not, he'd want to keep it hidden from Voldemort, wouldn't he? Remember all those awful things he had to get rid of when we were last here? The clock that shot bolts at everyone and those old robes that tried to strangle Ron. Regulus might have put them somewhere to protect the locket's hiding place, even though he didn't realize it at... Harry and Ron looked at her. She was standing with one foot in mid-air, with a dumbstruck look of one who'd been obliviated. Her eyes had drifted out of focus. At the time, she finished in a whisper. Something wrong? Asked Ron. There was a locket. What? Said Harry and Ron together. In the cabinet in the drawing room. Nobody could open it, and we... Harry felt as though a brick had slid down through his chest into his stomach. He remembered. He'd even handled the thing as they passed it around, each trying to turn it to prise it open. It had been tossed into a sack of rubbish, along with the snuff box of Wartcap powder and the music box that had made everyone sleepy. Creature nicks loads of things from us, said Harry. It was the only chance, the only slender hope left to them. He was going to cling to it until forced to let it go. He had a whole stash of stuff in his cupboard, in the kitchen. Come on. He ran down the stairs, taking 2 steps at a time, the other 2 thundering along in his wake. They made so much noise that they woke the portrait of Sirius's mother as they passed through the hall. Filth! Mudblood! Scum! She screamed after them as they dashed down into the basement kitchen and slammed the door behind them. Harry ran along the length of the floor and skidded to a halt at the door to Creature's cupboard and wrenched it open. It was a nest of dirty old blankets which the house elf had once slept, but they were no longer glittering with trinkets Creature had salvaged. The only thing there was an old copy of Nature's Nobility, a wizarding genealogy. Refusing to believe his eyes, Harry snatched up the blankets and shook them. A dead mouse fell out and rolled dismally onto the floor. Ron groaned as he threw himself into a kitchen chair, and Hermione closed her eyes. "It's not over yet," Harry said. He raised his voice and called, "Creature!" It was a loud crack, and the house elf that Harry had so reluctantly inherited from Sirius appeared out of nowhere in front of the cold, empty fireplace. Tiny, half-human sized, his pale skin hanging off of him in folds. White hair sprouted copiously from his bat-like ears. He still was wearing the filthy rag in which they had first met him, and the contemptuous look he bent upon Harry showed that his attitude had not changed. His attitude to his change of ownership had altered no more than his outfit. "Master," croaked Creature in his bullfrog voice, and he bowed low, muttering to his knees. "Back in Mistress's old house with the blood traitor Weasley and the mudblood." "I forbid you to call anyone blood traitor or mudblood," growled Harry. He would have found Creature, with his snout-like nose and bloodshot eyes, a distinct, unlovable object, even if the elf had not betrayed Sirius to Voldemort. "I've got a question for you," said Harry, his heart beating rather fast as he looked down at the elf. "And I order you to answer it truthfully, understand?" "Yes, master." Bowing low again, Harry saw his lips moving soundlessly, undoubtedly framing the insults he was now forbidden to utter. 2 years ago," said Harry, his heart now hammering against his ribs. "There was a big gold locket in the drawing room upstairs. We threw it out. Did you steal it back?" There was a moment of silence, during which Creature straightened up and looked Harry full in the face. Then he said, "Yes." "Where is it now?" asked Harry jubilantly, as Ron and Hermione looked gleeful. Creature closed his eyes as though he could not bear the reactions to his next word. "Gone." "Gone," echoed Harry, elation flooding out of him. "What do you mean, gone?" The elf shivered. He swayed. "Creature," Harry said fiercely, "I order you." "Mundungus Fletcher," croaked the elf, his eyes still tight shut. "Mundungus Fletcher stole it. All of it. Miss Bella's and Miss Chrissy's pictures. My mistress's gloves. The Order of Merlin First Class. A goblet of the family crest. And... Creature was gulping for air. His hollow chest was rising and falling rapidly. Then his eyes flew open and he uttered a blood-curdling scream. "And the locket, Master Regulus's locket. Creature did wrong. Creature failed in his orders." Harry reacted instinctively, as Creature lunged for the poker standing in the grate. He launched himself upon the elf, flattening him. Hermione's scream mingled with Creature's, but Harry bellowed louder than both of them. "Creature, I order you to stay still!" He felt the elf freeze and released him. Creature lay flat on the cone-stalled floor, tears gushing from his sagging eyes. "Harry, let him up," Hermione whispered. "So he can beat himself with a poker," snorted Harry, kneeling beside the elf. "I don't think so. Right, Creature, I want the truth. How do you know Mundungus Fletcher stole the locket?" "Creature saw him," gasped the elf, his tears poured out over his snout, into his mouth full of greying teeth. "Creature saw him coming out of Creature's cupboard, with his hands full of Creature's treasures. Creature told the snake thief to stop, but Mundungus Fletcher laughed and ran." "You called the locket Master Regulus's," said Harry. "Why? Where did it come from? What did Regulus have to do with it? Creature, sit up and tell me everything you know about that locket, and everything Regulus had to do with it." The elf sat up and curled into a ball, placed his wet face between his knees, and began to rock forward and backward. When he spoke, his voice was muffled, but quite distinct in the silent, echoing kitchen. "Master Sirius ran away. Good riddance. For he was a bad boy and broke my mistress's heart with his lawless ways. But Master Regulus had a proper pride. He knew what was due the name of Black and the dignity of his pure blood. For years he talked of the Dark Lord, who was going to bring the wizards out of hiding to rule the Muggles and the Muggle-borns. And when he was 60 years old, Master Regulus joined the Dark Lord. So proud, so happy to serve. And one day, a year after he joined, Master Regulus came down to the kitchen to see Creature. Master Regulus always liked Creature. And Master Regulus, he said, that
The old elf rocked faster than ever.
he said it was the Dark Lord required an elf.
Voldemort needed an elf, Harry repeated, looking around at Ron and Hermione, who looked just as puzzled as he did.
Oh, yes,
Moaned Creature.
and Master Regulus had volunteered, Creature. It was an honor, said Master Regulus, an honor for him and for Creature, who must be sure to do whatever the Dark Lord ordered him to do, and then come home.
Creature rocked still faster, his breath coming in sobs.
So Creature went to the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord did not tell Creature what they were to do, but took Creature with him to a cave beside the sea. And beyond the cave, there was a cavern, and in the cavern was a great black lake.
The hairs on the back of Harry's neck stood up. Creature's croaking voice seemed to come to him from across the black water. He saw what had happened as clearly as though he had been present. Castle pumpkin pie is the best. I agree, Esther. Some people really don't like red meat. I adore red meat. I could live on it. I love the voices you do. Sirius's mother's voice made me laugh out loud. Well, she's got to be a bit of a crone, doesn't she? She's rather grating, if you will. To everyone who's dropped in, who I missed, welcome, my friends. I'm so glad that you could join us. If we're having any we've been having technical difficulties with the portals tonight, so if there are any that pop up, please do let me know. I'll be happy to try and fix it if I can. Alright, where was I?
There was a boat.
Of course there had been a boat. Harry knew the boat. Ghostly green and tiny, bewitched, so as to carry only one wizard and one victim towards the island in the centre. This, then, was how Voldemort had tested the defences surrounding the Horcrux, by borrowing a disposable creature, a house elf.
There was a basin full of potion on the island. The Dark Lord made Creature drink it.
The elf quaked from head to foot.
Creature drank, and as he drank, he saw terrible things. Creature's insides burned. Creature cried for Master Regulus to save him. He cried for his mistress Black, but the Dark Lord only laughed. He made Creature drink all the potion. He dropped the locket into the empty basin. He filled it with more potion. Then the Dark Lord sailed away, leaving Creature on the island.
Harry could see it happening. He watched Voldemort's eyes, snake-like, face vanishing into the darkness. Those eyes fixed piteously on the thrashing elf, whose death would occur within minutes. Whenever he succumbed to the desperate thirst that the burning potion caused its victims. But here Harry's imagination could go no further, for he could not see how Creature had escaped.
Creature needed water. He crawled to the island's edge and he drank from the black lake. And hands, dead hands, came out of the water and dragged Creature under the surface.
How did you get away? Harry asked. He was not surprised to hear himself whispering. Creature raised his ugly head and looked at Harry with his great bloodshot eyes.
Master Regulus told Creature to come back,
he said. I know, but how did you escape the Inferior? Creature did not seem to understand.
Master Regulus told Creature to come back,
he repeated. I know, but
Oh, it's obvious, isn't it, Harry? Said Ron. He disapparated. But you couldn't apparate in and out of the cave, said Harry. Otherwise, Dumbledore. Elf magic isn't it like wizard magic, is it? Said Ron. I mean, they can apparate and disapparate in and out of Hogwarts when we can't. There was silence as Harry digested this. How could Voldemort have made such a mistake? But even as he thought this, Hermione spoke. Her voice was icy. Of course, Voldemort would have considered the ways of house elves far beneath his notice, just like all the purebloods who treat them like animals. It would never have occurred to him that they might have magic that he didn't. Of course, Voldemort would have
Law is his master's bidding.
intoned Creature.
Creature was told to come home, so Creature came home.
Well, then, you did as you were told, didn't you? Said Hermione kindly. You didn't disobey your orders at all. Creature shook his head, rocking as fast as ever. So what happened when you got back? Harry asked. What did Regulus say when you told him what had happened?
Master Regulus was very, very worried.
Croaked Creature.
Master Regulus told Creature to stay hidden, to not leave the house. And it was a while later. Master Regulus came to find Creature in his cupboard one night. Master Regulus was strange, not as he usually was, disturbed in his mind. Creature could tell. And he asked Creature to take him to the cave where Creature had gone with the Dark Lord.
And so they had set off. Harry could visualize them quite clearly. The frightened old elf, the thin, dark seeker, who had so resembled Sirius. Creature knew how to open the concealed entrance to the underground cavern, knew how to raise a tiny boat. This time it was his beloved Regulus who sailed with him to the island and its basin of poison. And he made you drink the potion, said Harry, disgusted. But Creature shook his head and wept. Hermione's hands leapt to her mouth. She seemed to have understood something.
Master Regulus took from his pocket a locket that looked like the Dark Lord, the one the Dark Lord had had,
said Creature, tears pouring from down either side of his snout-like nose.
And he told Creature to take it, and when the basin was empty, to switch the lockets.
Creature's sobs came in great rasps now. Harry had to concentrate hard to understand him.
He ordered Creature to leave without him. He told Creature to go home and never tell my mistress what he had done, but to destroy the first locket. And he drank all the potion, and Creature swapped the lockets and watched as Master Regulus was dragged beneath the water and...
Oh, Creature, wailed Hermione, who was crying. She dropped to her knees beside the elf and tried to hug him. At once he was on his feet, cringing away from her with quite obviously repulsed.
The mudblood touched Creature. He will not allow it. What would his mistress say?
I told you not to call her mudblood, snarled Harry, but the elf was already punishing himself. He fell to the ground and banged his forehead on the floor. Stop him! Stop him! Hermione cried. Oh, so you see how sick it is? The way that they've got to obey? Creature, stop! Stop! Shouted Harry. The elf lay on the floor, panting and shivering. Green mucus glistened around his snout, a bruise already blooming on his pallid forehead, where he had struck himself. His eyes swollen and bloodshot and swimming in tears, and he had never seen anything so pitiful. So, you brought the locket home, he said relentlessly, for he was determined to know the full story. And you tried to destroy it.
Nothing Creature ever did made a mark on it,
moaned the elf.
Creature tried everything he knew. but nothing will work. So many powerful spells upon the casting. Creature was sure the way to destroy it was to get inside it, but it would not open. Creature punished himself. He tried again. Creature failed to obey orders. Creature could not destroy the locket. And his mistress was mad with grief. His master Regulus had disappeared, and Creature could not tell her what had happened. No, because Master Regulus had forbidden him to tell any of the family what happened in the cave.
Creature began to sob so hard that there were no more coherent words. Tears flowed down Hermione's cheeks as she watched Creature, but she did not dare to touch him again. Even Ron, who was no fan of Creatures, looked troubled, and he sat back on his heels and shook his head, trying to clear it.
I don't understand you, Creature, he said finally. Voldemort tried to kill you. Regulus died to bring Voldemort down. But you were still happy to betray Sirius to Voldemort. You were happy to go to Narcissa and Bellatrix and pass information to Voldemort through them. Harry, Creature doesn't think like that, said Hermione, wiping her eyes on the back of her hand. He's a slave. House elves are used to bad, even brutal treatment. What Voldemort did to Creature wasn't that far out of common way. What do wizard wars mean to an elf-like creature? He's loyal to people who are kind to him, and Mrs. Black must have been, and Regulus certainly was. So he served them willingly and parroted their beliefs. I know what you're going to say, she went on as Harry began to protest, but Regulus changed his mind. But he doesn't seem to have explained that to Creature, does he? And I think I know why. Creature and Regulus's family were all safe if they kept the old pureblood line. Regulus was trying to protect them all. Sirius was horrible to Creature, Harry. And it's no good looking like that. You know it's true. Creature had been alone for a long time when Sirius came to live here. And he was probably starving for a bit of affection. I'm sure Miss Sissy and Miss Bella were perfectly lovely to Creature when he turned up. So he did them a favour and told them everything they wanted to know. I've said all along that wizards would pay for how they treat house elves. Well, Voldemort did, and so did Sirius.
Harry had no retort. As he watched Creature sobbing on the floor, he remembered what Dumbledore had said to him. Mere hours after Sirius's death.
I do not think Sirius ever saw Creature as a being with feelings as acute as a human's.
Creature, Harry said after a while, when you feel up to it, please sit up.
It was several more minutes before Creature hiccuped himself into silence. Then he pushed himself into sitting position again, rubbing his knuckles into his eyes like a small child.
Creature, I'm going to ask you to do something, said Harry. He glanced at Hermione for assistance.
He wanted to give the order kindly, but at the same time, he could not pretend that it was not an order. However, the change in his tone seemed to have gained her approval. She smiled encouragingly.
Creature, I want you, please, to go and find Mundungus Fletcher. We need to find out where the locket, where Master Regulus's locket is. It's really important. We want to finish the work Master Regulus started. We want to ensure that he didn't die in vain.
Creature dropped his fists and looked up at Harry.
Find Mundungus Fletcher,
he croaked, and bring him here, to Grimmauld Place, said Harry. Do you think you could do that for us?
As Creature nodded and got to his feet, Harry had a sudden inspiration. He pulled out Hagrid's purse and took out the fake Horcrux, a substitute locket in which Regulus had placed the note to Voldemort.
Creature, I'd like you to have this, he said, pressing the locket into the elf's hand. This belonged to Regulus, and I'm sure he'd want you to have it as a token of gratitude for what you overkill, mate. said Ron as the elf took one look at the locket and let out a howl of shock and misery, and threw himself back onto the ground. It took them nearly half an hour to calm Creature, who was so overcome to be present with a black family heirloom, but his very own, that he was too weak at his knees to stand properly. When finally he was able to totter a few steps, they all accompanied him to his cupboard, watched him tuck the locket safely under his dirty blankets, and assured him that they would make its protection their first priority while he was away. He then made 2 low bows to Harry and Ron, then gave a funny little spasm in Hermione's directions that might have been an attempt at a respectful salute, before disapparating with the usual loud crack. Oh, Heselin, hello! Welcome, welcome, good to see you. Molly, good to see you as well. Crystal says, poor Creature, can't help but feel bad for him. It's just one of those things, isn't it? But hello, friends, welcome in. Let's see, what are we at? We are at exactly 2 hours. Let's see, 134. All right, well, we're not going to have time for another chapter. Oh, thank you, Marina, for the stretch and the drink. I appreciate you for that. Cheers. Ah. Well, actually, I don't know. Let's see. 7:48. Lovey, do I have time for another chapter? Well, I have 2 videos I need to finish tonight. But they're already short, I just have to edit them. Huh? Well, the next chapter looks like, so let's see, it is, the next chapter is 15 pages. Or, let's see, 13 pages. You think I can get through 13 pages in 45 minutes? What do you guys think? You think we can power through 13 pages in 45 minutes? You think we can do it? If there's no waffling, yeah. I mean, there would have to be no waffling for sure. Maddie says, we got this. I'm thinking of streaming, finishing chapter 30 tonight, maybe, but only about a week, and I'm done too. We're booked 2 either way. Spectacular news, Maddie. Spectacular news. Please. But the waffles. I think we've had more than enough waffles tonight. We made it all the way through the Christopher Columbus colonization era. I think we should be able to make it. All right, friends, give me a 1 minute. I'm going to grab a snack, because I just realized I hadn't eaten today. So I'm going to grab a snack real quick. Milo, you did miss out. And they were pretty good too. We were talking about history. Esther enjoys the stories more, and that's why the tavern's great. A little bit of something for everybody. Some people enjoy the stories, some people enjoy the waffles. Yeah, let's refill water. And let me grab just a real quick snack. Yeah, we'll do waffles on Sunday. I will be on for waffles for sure on Sunday. Now that we're all caught up on everything. I shouldn't have any more need to miss waffles on Sunday. The pineapple on pizza pictures will roll. I agree, Molly. I agree. That's how it is, though, right? It's just the pineapple. If you don't get too sidetracked, I think we should be all right. Sunday chicken and waffles, yeah. All right. Give me just a second to grab a snack, and then I'll be right back. History is good, Esther. I agree. Probably we'll do story time on Sunday. I don't think there's any reason for us to miss it. Alright, friends, refill your drinks. Everybody go grab a snack real quick. I'm gonna pop up, I'm gonna grab something, just a quick bite to eat. No more than 5 minutes. We'll run ads over on Twitch while I'm up, and then when I get back, we will go chapter 11, The Bribe. So we'll see what happens, alright? I'll be right back, friends.
All right, my friends. I have returned. I have snackified myself a little bit. So, are we ready for another chapter of Harry Potter? In celebration of Halloween. I just want to make sure everybody knows I'm back. Belinda, hello, hello, good to see you. I opened the box and it had like 24 tiny fish in it. Oh, plastic fish. Were you expecting a box with fish in it? Because if you were expecting a box with fish in it, that's a pleasant surprise. If you weren't, that's a not very pleasant surprise. Look forward to another chapter. As do I, Esther. Let's go ahead and get started. Everyone, fill and raise your glasses. We're going in. I was expecting the light that was shown on the box. That is a significant difference. You ordered light and you got fish. Those are not the same thing, not even in the same classification of things. All right, friends, let us continue story time. And thank you to all the barkeeps who are still hanging out and making sure everybody is well taken care of while my head is down. I appreciate you all. Let's get a round of applause for the barkeeps. They're absolutely wonderful. I appreciate them. All right. Chapter 11. The Bribe. If Creature could not escape a lake full of inferi, Harry was confident that if Creature could escape a lake full of inferi, Harry was confident that the capture of Mundungus would take a few hours at most, and he prowled the house all morning in a state of high anticipation. However, Creature did not return that morning or even that afternoon. By nightfall, Harry felt discouraged and anxious, and a supper composed largely of mouldy bread upon which Hermione tried a variety of unsuccessful transfigurations did nothing to help. Creature did not return the following day, nor the day after that. However, when two cloaked men had appeared in the square outside number 12, and they remained there into the night, gazing in the direction of the house that they could not see. Death Eaters for sure, said Ron, as he, Harry, and Hermione watched from the drawing room windows. Reckon they know we're in here. I don't think so, said Hermione, though she looked frightened. Or they'd have sent Snape in after us, wouldn't they? Do you reckon he's been here and had his tongue tied by Moody's curse? Asked Ron. Yes, said Hermione. Otherwise, he'd have been able to tell that lot how to get in, wouldn't he? But they're probably watching to see whether we turn up. They know that Harry owns the house after all. How do they... began Harry. Wizarding wills are examined by the Ministry, remember? They'll know Sirius left you the place. The presence of the Death Eaters outside increased the ominous mood inside number 12. They had not heard a word from anyone beyond Grimmauld Place since Mr. Weasley's Patronus, and the strain was starting to tell. Restless and irritable, Ron had developed an annoying habit of playing with the Deluminator in his pocket. This particularly infuriated Hermione, who was whiling away the wait for Creature by studying the tales of Beetle the Bard, and did not appreciate the way the lights kept flashing on and off. Will you stop it? She cried on the third evening of Creature's absence. as all the light was sucked from the drawing room yet again. Sorry, said Ron, clicking the illuminator and restoring the lights. I don't know I'm doing it. Well, can't you find something useful to occupy yourself? What, like reading kids' stories? Dumbledore left me this book, Ron. And he left me the illuminator. Maybe I'm supposed to use it. Unable to stand the bickering, Harry slipped out of the room unnoticed by either of them. He headed downstairs towards the kitchen, which he kept visiting because he was sure that was where Creature was most likely to reappear. Halfway down the flight of stairs into the hall, however, he heard a tap on the front door and then a metallic clicks and the grinding of the chain. Every nerve in his body seemed to tauten. He pulled out his wand, moved into the shadows beside the decapitated elf heads, and waited. The door opened, and he saw a glimpse of lamplit square outside, and a cloaked figure edged into the hole and closed the door behind it. The intruder took a step forward, and Moody's voice said, "Severus Snape!" Then the dust figure rose from the end of the hole and rushed, raising its head, its dead hand. "It was not I who killed you, Albus," said a quiet voice. The jinx broke. The dust figure exploded again, and it was impossible to make out the newcomer through the dense grey cloud that left behind. Harry pointed his wand into the middle of it. "Don't move." He had forgotten the portrait of Mrs. Black. At the sound of this yell, the curtains hiding her flew open, and she began to scream.
"Mudbloods! Filthy! Dishonoring my house!"
And Ron and Hermione crushing down the stairs behind Harry, wands pointing, like his, at the unknown man, now standing with his arms raised in the hall below.
Hold your fire! It's me, Remus.
"Oh, thank goodness," said Hermione weakly, pointing her wand at Mrs. Black instead. With a bang, the curtains swished shut again, and silence fell. Ron too lowered his wand, but Harry did not. "Show yourself," he called back. Lupin moved forward into the lamplight, hands still held high in a gesture of surrender.
I'm Remus John Lupin, werewolf, sometimes known as Moony, one of the 4 creators of the Marauders map, married to Nymphadora, usually known as Tonks. And I taught you how to produce a Patronus, Harry, which takes the form of a stag.
"Oh, all right," said Harry, lowering his wand. "But I had to check, didn't I?"
Speaking as your ex-Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, I quite agree. You had to check. Ron, Hermione, you shouldn't be quite so quick to lower your defenses.
They ran down the stairs toward him. Wrapped in a thick black travelling cloak, he looked exhausted, but pleased to see them.
No sign of Severus, then?
He asked. "No," said Harry. "What's going on? Is everyone okay?"
Yes,
said Lupin.
but we're all being watched. There are a couple of Death Eaters in the square outside.
"We know."
I had to apparate very precisely onto the top step outside the front door to be sure that they would not see me. They can't know you're in here, or I'm sure they'd have more people out there. They're stalking out everywhere that's got any connection to you, Harry. Let's go downstairs. There's a lot to tell you, and I want to know what happened after you left the burrow.
They descended into the kitchen, where Hermione pointed her wand at the grate. A fire sprang up instantly. It gave an illusion of coziness to the stark stone walls, glistening off the long wooden table. Lupin pulled a few butterbeers from beneath his travelling cloak, and they sat down.
I'd have been here 3 days ago, but I needed to shake off the Death Eater tailing me,
said Lupin.
So you came straight here after the wedding?
No, said Harry. Only after we ran into a couple of Death Eaters in a cafe in Tottenham Court Road.
Lupin slopped most of his butterbeer down his front.
What?
They explained what had happened, and when they had finished, Lupin looked aghast.
But how did they know how to find you so quickly? It's impossible to track anyone who operates unless you grab hold of them as they disappear.
And it doesn't seem like they were just strolling down Tottenham Court Road at the time, does it?
Said Harry.
We wondered,
Said Hermione tentatively.
whether Harry could still have the trace on him.
Did I miss something? No. Okay, never mind. We're good. That's nature's way of saying not here. Yeah. Slanches Tancha. Props to the barkeeps. Cheers, friends. Cheers. You guys are all so wonderful. I appreciate every last one of you. What truly sparks joy for Elsie and me are the tales of castles, captivating histories, storytelling, and lively shanties. Bring me quite a bit of joy as well, Esther. Quite a bit. All right.
Impossible,
Said Lupin. Ron looked smug and Harry felt hugely relieved.
apart from anything else. They'd know for sure Harry was here. If he still had the trace on him, wouldn't they? I can't see how they could have tracked you to Tottenham Court. That's really, really worrying.
He looked disturbed, but as far as Harry was concerned, that question could wait.
Tell us what happened after we left. We haven't heard a thing since Ron's dad told us the family was safe.
Well, Kingsley saved us.
Said Lupin.
Thanks to his warning, most of the wedding guests were able to disapparate before they arrived.
Were they Death Eaters or Ministry people?
Interjected Hermione.
Mixture. But to all intents and purposes, they're the same thing now.
Said Lupin.
Huh?
No, your son has it in his room.
There were about a dozen of them, but they didn't know you were there, Harry. Arthur heard a rumor that they tried to torture your whereabouts at the Scrimgeour before they killed him. If it's true, he didn't give you away.
Harry looked at Ron and Hermione. Their expressions reflected the mingled shock and gratitude that he felt. He had never liked Scrimgeour much, but if what Lupin said was true, the man's final act had been to try and protect Harry.
Death Eaters searched the burrow from top to bottom.
Lupin went on.
They found the ghoul, but didn't want to get too close. And then they interrogated those who remained for hours. They were trying to get information on you, Harry. But of course, nobody part of the Order knew that you had been there. Nobody apart from the Order knew you had been there. At the same time that they were smashing up the wedding, more Death Eaters were forcing their way to every Order-connected house in the country. No deaths,
He added quickly, forestalling the question.
but they were rough. They buttoned down Daedalus Diggle's house. But as you know, he wasn't there. And they used Cruciatus' curse on Tonks' family. Again, trying to find out where you went after you visited them. They're all right. Shaken, obviously, but otherwise okay.
The Death Eaters got through all those protective charms.
Harry asked, remembering how effective those had been on the night he crashed into Tonks' parents' garden.
But you got to realize, Harry, that the Death Eaters have got the full might of the Ministry on their side now.
Said Lupin.
They got the power to perform brutal spells without fear of identification or arrest. They managed to penetrate every defensive spell we'd cast against them. Once inside, they were completely open about why they'd come.
And they're bothering to give an excuse for torturing Harry's whereabouts out of people. And are they bothering to give an excuse for torturing Harry's whereabouts out of people? Asked Hermione, an edge in her voice.
Well,
Said Lupin. He hesitated, then pulled a folded copy of the Daily Prophet out of his pocket.
here,
He said, pushing it across the table to Harry.
you'll know sooner or later anyways. That's their pretext for going after you.
Harry smoothed out the paper. A huge photograph of his own face filled the front page. He read the headline over it. Wanted for questioning about the death of Albus Dumbledore. Ron and Hermione gave to roars of outrage, but Harry said nothing. He pushed the newspaper away. He did not want to read any more. He knew what they would say. Nobody but those who had been on the top of the tower when Dumbledore died knew who had really killed him, and as Rita Skeeter had already told the whole wizarding world, Harry had been seen running from the place moments after Dumbledore had fallen.
I'm sorry, Harry.
Said Lupin. So Death Eaters have taken over the Daily Prophet too? Said Hermione furiously. Lupin nodded. But surely people realize what's going on.
The coup has been smooth and virtually silent,
Said Lupin.
The official version of Scrimgeour's murder is that he resigned, and he's been replaced by Pious Thickness, who is under the Imperious Curse.
Why didn't Dumbledore declare himself Minister of Magic? Asked Ron. Lupin laughed.
He doesn't need to, Ron. He effectively is the Minister. But why should he sit behind a desk at the Ministry? His puppet, Thickness, is taking care of everyday business, leaving Voldemort free to extend his power beyond the Ministry. Naturally, many people have deduced what has happened. There has been such a dramatic change in Ministry policy in the last few days, and many are whispering that Voldemort must be behind it. What is the point? They whisper. They don't confide in each other. Not knowing whom to trust, they are scared to speak out. In case their suspicions are true, the families are targeted. Yes, Voldemort is playing a very clever game. Declaring himself might have provoked open rebellion. Remaining masked has created confusion, uncertainty, and fear.
And this dramatic change in Ministry policy, said Harry, involves warning the wizarding world against me instead of Voldemort.
That's certainly part of it,
said Lupin.
and it is a masterstroke. Now that Dumbledore is dead, you, boy who lived, was sure to be a symbol and rallying point for any resistance to Voldemort. But by suggesting that you had a hand in the old hero's death, Voldemort has not only set a price upon your head, but sown doubt and fear among many who would have defended you. Meanwhile, the Ministry has started moving against Muggle-borns.
Lupin pointed to the Daily Prophet.
Look at page 2.
Hermione turned the pages with as much the same expression of distaste she had worn when handling secrets of the dark arts. Muggle-born Register, she read aloud. The Ministry of Magic is undertaking a survey of so-called Muggle-borns to better understand how they came to possess magical secrets. Recent research undertaken by the Department of Mysteries reveals that magic can only be passed down from person to person when wizards reproduce, when no proven wizarding ancestry exists. Therefore, the so-called Muggle-born is likely to obtain magical power by theft or force. The Ministry is determined to root out such usurpers of magical power, and to this end has issued an invitation to every so-called Muggle-born to present themselves for interview by newly appointed Muggle-born Register Commission. People won't let this happen, said Ron.
It is happening, Ron,
said Lupin.
Muggle-borns are being rounded up as we speak.
But how are they supposed to have stolen magic? Said Ron. It's mental. If you could steal magic, then there wouldn't be any squibs, would there?
I know,
said Lupin.
Nevertheless, Unless you can prove that you have at least one close wizarding relative, you are now deemed to have obtained your magical power illegally and must suffer the punishment.
Ron glanced at Hermione and then said, "What if purebloods and half-bloods swear a Muggleborn's part of their family? I'll tell everyone Hermione's my cousin." Hermione covered Ron's hands with hers and squeezed it. "Thank you, Ron, but I couldn't let you." "You won't have a choice," said Ron fiercely, gripping her hand back. "I'll teach you my family tree so you can answer questions on it." Hermione gave a shaky laugh.
Ron, as you were on the run with Harry Potter, the most wanted person in the country, I don't think it matters. If I was going back to school, it would be different.
Oh, hang on. Ron, as we're on the run with Harry Potter, the most wanted person in the country, I don't think it matters. If I was going back to school, it would be different. What's Voldemort planning for Hogwarts? She asked Lupin.
Attendance is now compulsory for every young witch and wizard,
He replied.
That was announced yesterday. It's a change, because it was never obligatory before. Of course, nearly every witch and wizard in Britain has been educated at Hogwarts, but their parents had the right to teach them at home, send them abroad if they prefer. This way, Voldemort will have the whole wizarding population under his eye from a young age. And it's another way of weeding out Muggleborns, because the students must be given blood status, meaning that they have proven to the Ministry that they are of wizard descent before they are allowed to attend.
Harry felt sickened and angry. At this moment, excited 11-year-olds would be poring over stacks of newly purchased spellbooks, unaware they would never see Hogwarts. Perhaps never see their families again either.
It's...
He muttered, struggling to find the words that did justice to the horror of his thoughts. But Lupin said quietly.
No.
Lupin hesitated.
I'll understand if you can't confirm this, Harry. But the Order is under the impression that Dumbledore left you a mission.
He did, Harry replied. And Ron and Hermione are in on it, and they're coming with me.
Can you confide in me what that mission is?
Harry looked into his prematurely lined face, framed in thick but greying hair, and wished he could return a different answer. I'm sorry, I can't, Remus. If Dumbledore didn't tell you, I don't think I can.
I thought you'd say that,
said Lupin, looking disappointed.
But I might still be of some use to you. You know what I am and what I can do. I can come with you to provide protection. There would be no need to tell me exactly what you were up to.
Harry hesitated. It was a very tempting offer, though how they would be able to keep their mission secret from Lupin if he were there with him all the time, he could not imagine. I appreciate you, Ashley. You guys are amazing. Never a greater bunch of renegades and rebels has a man ever had. Rapscallions, misfits, all of the above. Hermione, however, looked puzzled. But what about Tongs? She asked.
What about her?
Said Lupin. Well, said Hermione, frowning, you're married. How does she feel about you going away with us?
Tonks will be perfectly safe,
said Lupin.
She'll be at her parents' house.
There was something strange in Lupin's tone. It was almost cold. There was also something odd in the idea that Tonks remaining hidden at her parents' house. She was, after all, a member of the Order, and, as far as Harry knew, was likely to want to be in the thick of the action. Remus, said Hermione tentatively, is everything all right with, between you and...
Everything's fine, thank you,
said Lupin pointedly. Hermione turned pink.
There was another pause, an awkward, embarrassed one, and Lupin said, with an air of forcing himself to admit something unpleasant.
Tonks is going to have a baby.
Oh, how wonderful, squealed Hermione. Excellent, said Ron enthusiastically. Congratulations, said Harry. Lupin gave an artificial smile that was more like a grimace and said,
So, do you accept my offer? Will 3 become 4? I cannot believe that Dumbledore would have disapproved. He appointed me your defense against the dark arts teacher, after all. And I must tell you that I believe that we are facing magic many of us have never encountered or imagined.
Ron and Hermione both looked at Harry. Just to be clear, he said, you want to leave Tonks at her parents' house and come away with us?
She'll be perfectly safe there. They'll look after her,
said Lupin. He spoke with a finality that was bordering on indifference.
Harry, I'm sure James would have wanted me to stick with you.
Well, said Harry slowly, I'm not. Pretty sure my father would have wanted to know why you aren't sticking with your own kid, actually. Lupin's face drained of colour. The temperature in the kitchen might have dropped 10 degrees. Ron stared around the room as though he had been bidden to memorize it. While Hermione's eyes swiveled back and forward from Harry to Lupin.
Don't understand,
said Lupin at last. Explain then, said Harry. Lupin swallowed.
I made a grave mistake in marrying Tonks. Did it against my better judgment. I've regretted it ever since.
I see, said Harry. So you're going to just dump her and the kid and run off with us? Lupin sprang to his feet. His chair toppled over backwards, and he glared at them so fiercely that Harry saw for the first time ever the shadow of the wolf upon his human face.
Don't you understand what I've done to my wife and my unborn child? I should have never married her. I've made her an outcast.
Lupin kicked aside the chair he had overturned.
You've only ever seen me amongst the Order, and under Dumbledore's protection at Hogwarts. You don't know how most of the wizarding world sees creatures like me. When they know of my affliction, they can barely talk to me. Don't you see what I've done? Even our own family is disgusted by our marriage. What parents want their only daughter to marry a werewolf? And the child...
Lupin actually seized handfuls of his own hair. He looked quite deranged.
My kind don't usually breed. It will be like me, I'm convinced of it. How can I forgive myself when I'm knowingly risking passing on my condition to the innocent child? And if by some miracle it's not like me, then it will be better off 100 times so without a father for whom I must always be ashamed.
Remus, said Hermione, tears in her eyes, don't say that. How could any child be ashamed of you? Oh, I don't know, Hermione, said Harry. I'd be pretty ashamed of him. Harry did not know where this rage was coming from, but it had propelled him to his feet. Lupin had looked as though Harry had hit him. If the new regime thinks Muggleborns are bad, Harry said, what will they do with half-werewolf whose father is in the Order? My father died trying to protect my mother and me. And you reckon he'd tell you to abandon your kid and go on an adventure with us?
How dare you?
Said Lupin.
This is not about a desire for danger or personal glory. How dare you suggest such a...
I think you're feeling a bit of a daredevil, said Harry. You fancy stepping into Sirius's shoes? Harry, no! Hermione begged him, but he continued to glare into Lupin's livid face. I'd never have believed this, Harry said. The man who taught me to fight Dementors. A coward. Lupin drew his wand so fast that Harry had barely reached for his own. There was a loud bang, and he felt himself flying backwards as if punched. As he slammed into the kitchen wall and slid to the floor, he glimpsed the tail of Lupin's cloak
disappearing around the corner. Remus! Remus, come back! Hermione cried, but Lupin did not respond. A moment later, they heard the front door slam. Harry! Wailed Hermione. How could you? It was easy, said Harry. He stood up. He could feel a lump swelling where his head had hit the wall. He was still full of anger. He was shaking. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that, he snapped at Hermione. Don't start in on her, snarled Ron. No, we mustn't fight, said Hermione, launching herself between them. You shouldn't have said that stuff to Lupin, Ron told Harry. He had it coming to him, said Harry. Broken images were racing each other through his mind. Sirius falling through the veil, Dumbledore suspended, broken in midair. A flash of green light and his mother's voice begging for mercy. Parents, said Harry, shouldn't leave their kids unless they've got to. Harry, said Hermione, stretching out a consoling hand, but he shrugged it off and walked away. His eyes were on fire. Hermione had conjured. Her eyes were on the fire Hermione had conjured. He had once spoken to Lupin about that fireplace, seeking reassurance about James, and Lupin had consoled him. Now Lupin's tortured white face seemed to swim in the air before him. He felt a sickening surge of remorse. Neither Ron nor Hermione spoke, but Harry felt sure that they were looking at each other behind his back, communicating silently. He turned around and caught them turning hurriedly away from each other. I know I shouldn't have called him a coward. No, you shouldn't have, said Ron at once. But he's acting like one. All the same, said Hermione. I know, said Harry. But if it makes him go back to Tonks, it'll be worth it, won't it? He could not keep the plea out of his voice. Hermione looked sympathetic, Ron uncertain. Harry looked down at his feet, thinking of his father. Would James have backed Harry in what he had said to Lupin, or would he have been angry at how his son had treated his old friend? The silent kitchen seemed to hum with the shock of the recent scene, and with Ron and Hermione's unspoken reproaches, the daily prophet Lupin had brought was still lying on the table, had his own face staring up at the ceiling from the front page. He walked over to it and sat down. Opening the paper at random, he pretended to read. He could not take in the words. His mind was still too full of the encounter with Lupin. He was sure that Ron and Hermione had resumed their silent communications on the other side of the prophet. He turned the page loudly, and Dumbledore's name leapt out at him. It was a moment or two before he took in the meaning of the photograph, which showed a family group. Beneath the photograph were the words, "The Dumbledore family, left to right, Albus, Percival, holding newborn Ariana, Kendra, and Aberforth." His attention caught. Harry examined the picture more carefully. Dumbledore's father, Percival, was a good-looking man, with eyes that seemed to twinkle even in his faded old photograph. The baby, Ariana, was a little longer than a loaf of bread, and no more distinctive-looking. The mother, Kendra, had jet-black hair pulled into a high bun. Her face had a carved quality about it. Harry thought of photos of Native Americans he'd seen when he studied her dark eyes, high cheekbones, straight nose, formally composed above a high-necked silk gown. Albus and Aberforth wore matching lacy-collared jackets and had identical shoulder-length hairstyles. Albus looked several years older, but otherwise the two boys looked very alike. For this was before Albus's nose had been broken and before he started wearing glasses. The family looked quite happy and normal, smiling serenely out of the newspaper. Baby Ariana's arm waved vaguely out of her shawl. Harry looked above the picture and saw the headline. Exclusive extract from the upcoming biography of Albus Dumbledore by Rita Skeeter.
Thinking that it could hardly make him feel any worse than he already did, Harry began to read. Proud and haughty, Kendra Dumbledore could not bear to remain mold on the wold after her husband Percival's publicized arrest and imprisonment in Azkaban. She therefore decided to uproot the family and relocate to Godric's Hollow, the village that was later to gain fame as the scene of Harry Potter's strange escape from you-know-who. Like mold on the wold, Godric's Hollow was home to a number of visiting families, but as Kendra knew none of them, she would be spared the curiosity about her husband's crime she had faced in their former village. By repeatedly rebuffing friendly advances from new visiting neighbors, she soon ensured that her family shall be left alone. Slammed the door in the face as I went around to welcome her with a batch of homemade cauldron cakes, says Matilda Bagshot. The first year they were there, I only ever saw the two boys. Wouldn't have known there was a daughter if I hadn't been picking Plagentines by moonlight the winter after they moved in, and saw Kendra leading Ariana into the back garden. Walked her around the lawn once, keeping a firm grip on her, and then took her back inside. Didn't know what to make of it. It seems that Kendra thought the move to Godric's Hollow was the perfect opportunity to hide Ariana once and for all, something she had probably been planning for years. The timing was significant. Ariana was barely 7 years old when she vanished from sight, and 7 is the age by which most experts agree that magic will have revealed itself, if present. Nobody now alive remembers Ariana ever demonstrating even the slightest sign of magical abilities. It seems clear, therefore, that Kendra made the decision to hide her daughter's existence rather than suffer the shame of admitting that she had produced a squib. Moving away from friends and neighbors who knew Ariana would, of course, make imprisoning her all the easier. The tiny number of people who henceforth knew Ariana's existence could be counted upon to keep the secret, including her two brothers, who deflected awkward questions with the answers their mother had taught them. My sister is too frail for school. Next week, Albus Dumbledore at Hogwarts. The prizes and the pretense. Harry had been wrong. What he had read had indeed made him feel worse. Key, hello, good to see you, welcome in. I actually don't know, Matty, because I've never read this book, so you'd have to ask one of the Potterheads in here. Scallywags, yeah. Ruffians, hooligans, all of you. He looked back at the photograph of the apparently happy family. Was it true? How could he find out? He wanted to go to Godric's Hollow, even if Matilda was in no fit state to talk to him. He wanted to visit the place where he and Dumbledore had both lost loved ones. He was in the process of lowering the newspaper to ask Ron and Hermione's opinion when a deafening crack echoed around the kitchen. For the first time in 3 days, Harry had forgotten about Creature. His immediate thought was that Lupin had burst back into the room, and for a split second, he did not take in the mass of struggling limbs that had appeared out of thin air right beside his chair. He hurried to his feet as Creature disentangled himself from the bowing low, he croaked.
Creature has returned with the Mundungus Fletcher, Master.
Mundungus scrambled up and pulled out his wand. Hermione, however, was far too quick for him.
Expelliarmus!
Mundungus's wand soared into the air, and Hermione caught it. Wild-eyed, Mundungus dived for the stairs, and Ron rugby tackled him, and Mundungus hit the stone floor with a muffled crunch.
Oh, what?
He bellowed, writhing in his attempts to free himself from Ron's grip.
What have I done? Setting a bleeding arsehole for me? What are you playing at? What have I done? Let me go, or... You're not in much of a position to make threats,
said Harry. He threw aside the newspaper, crossed the kitchen in a few strides, and dropped to his knees beside Mundungus, who stopped struggling and looked terrified. Ron got up, panting, and watched as Harry pointed his wand deliberately at Mundungus's nose. Mundungus stank of stale sweat and tobacco smoke. His hair was matted and his robe stained.
Creature apologizes for the delay in bringing the thief master.
croaked the elf.
Fletcher knows how to avoid capture. Has many hidey holes and accomplices. Nevertheless, Creature cornered the thief in the end.
You've done well, creature, said Harry, and the elf bowed low. Right, we've got a few questions for you, Harry told Mundungus, who shouted at once. Well, I panicked, okay? I never wanted to come along, no offence, mate, but I've never volunteered to die for you, and that was bleeding you know who come flying at me. Anyone would have got out of here. I said all along I didn't want to do it. For your information, none of the rest of us disapparated, said Hermione. Well, you're a bunch of bleeding heroes then, aren't you? But I never pretended I was up for killing myself. We're not interested in why you ran out on Madame Moody, said Harry, moving his wand a little closer to Mundungus's baggy, bloodshot eyes. We already know that you were an unreliable bit of scum. Well, why all of them? Well then, why the hell am I being tied? God. Why the hell am I being hunted down by ourselves? Or is this about them goblets again? I ain't got none of them left, or you can have them. It's not about the goblets either, although you're getting warmer, said Harry. Shut up and listen. It felt wonderful to have something to do, someone of whom he could demand some small portion of truth. Harry's wand was now so close to the bridge of Mundungus's nose that Mundungus had gone cross-eyed trying to keep it in view. When you cleaned out this house of anything valuable, Harry began, but Mundungus interrupted again. Sirius never cared about any of that junk. Sirius never cared about any of that junk. There was a sound of pattering feet, a blazing of shining copper, an echoing clang, and a shriek of agony. Creature had taken a run at Mundungus and hit him over the head with a saucepan. Call him off! Call him off! Oh, he should be locked up, he should! Screamed Mundungus, cowering as Creature raised the heavy-bottomed pan again. Creature, no! Shouted Harry. Creature's thin arms trembled with the weight of the pan, still held aloft.
Perhaps just one more, Master Harry, for luck.
Ron laughed. We need him conscious, Creature. But if he needs persuading, you can do the honours, said Harry.
Thank you very much, Master,
said Creature with a bow, and he retreated a short distance, his great pale eyes still fixed on Mundungus with loathing. When you stripped this house of all of its valuables you could find, Harry began again. You took a bunch of stuff from the kitchen cupboard. There was a locket in there. Harry's mouth was suddenly dry. He could sense Ron and Hermione's tension and excitement too. What did you do with it? What? Asked Mundungus. Is it valuable? You've still got it! Cried Hermione. No, he hasn't, said Ron shrewdly. He's wondering whether he should have asked for more money for it. More? Said Mundungus. That wouldn't have been effing difficult. Bleeding gave it away, didn't I? No choice. What do you mean? I was selling in Diagon Alley and she come up to me and asked if I got a license for trading magical artifacts. Bleeding snoot. She was going to fine me, but she just took a fancy to the locket and told me she'd take it and let me off. That time, and to think myself lucky. Who was the woman? Asked Harry. I don't know, some ministry hag. Mundungus considered for a moment, brow wrinkled. Little woman, bow on top of her head. He frowned and then added, looked like a toad. Harry dropped his wand, it hit Mundungus on the nose and shot red sparks into his eyebrows, which ignited. Augmenti! Screamed Hermione as a jet of water streamed from her wand, engulfing the spluttering and choking Mundungus. Harry looked up and saw his own shock reflected on Ron's and Hermione's faces. The scars on the back of his right hand seemed to tingle again. Oh, and look at that! We managed to do almost exactly 45 minutes.
Absolutely spectacular, my friends. We cleared at an hour, 3 hours and 2 minutes. Sold it to a toad. Got robbed by a toad is what happened. Mundungus got robbed by the toad woman. So now we know Umbridge has the locket. Yeah, it's... And not a waffle inside. We managed to go all the way without hitting the Waffle House. Oh. Absolutely wonderful, my friends. Lovey, give me a song to do. We're gonna do one. My throat is kind of worn out, so I just want to do one tonight. Huh? I don't know why I'm having such a hard time hearing you tonight. The Mermaid. Okay. All right. All right. All right. We're gonna sign off with the Mermaid, and that's gonna be our song for the evening. It's time for me. I must duck out for the evening. Good night, Frost. Always an absolute pleasure, my friend. I look forward to seeing you back on Sunday. I hope you have a spectacular Halloween. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you very much for that. If we get home early enough tomorrow, I might do a Harry Potter marathon for everybody over in the guild as like a goodbye to the guild, as well as like sort of a happy Halloween sort of thing. So we're gonna sing one song, and then I'm gonna send you all off to bed. I'm gonna mute the music. We're gonna do the Mermaid song. Cheer Bliss, hello! It's good to see you. Thank you for the heart signal. I appreciate that. I certainly will. I'll let everybody know if we decide to do it. Thank you, Bear. Thank you, Marina. Thank you to all of you guys who are absolutely wonderful. It means the world. Thank you kindly, my friends. We're going to do the Mermaid song by Great Big Sea per the request of the Lady of the Tavern, and then we're going to head off. Got here late. Love being here. It's always wonderful to have you. I'm glad you made it in. Yeah, me too. It's a very funny one. Thank you so much for the stories. It was good to see you, Lily. I'm glad that you made it in. I don't know how often you lurk, but it was good to see you. Yes, you and Elsie are absolutely wonderful, Esther. Yeah, we might only get 1 or 2 movies in, but I know that you have all of the Harry Potter movies on DVD, yeah?
I think so. Otherwise, I gave them to my sister.
So we either have them or we have access to them. We'll see what.
They're all on Max too.
Yeah, I can't stream that though for everybody. If we're gonna do a watch party, we have to be able to stream it. Yeah, we'll do some Halloween movies tomorrow, for everybody. I don't know. It'll be when we get back from my brother's, so it'll be late. So our Australian friends might not be able to join, but depending on what time it is, we'll do some that evening, and then we'll probably do some the next day as well. Una is beyond wonderful. She is at the top of the wonderful pinnacle, to be sure. All right, let's sing the Mermaid song. When I was a lad in a fishing town, the old man said to me, "You can spend your life, your jolly life, just a sailing on the sea. You can search the world for pretty girls till your eyes are weak and dim, but don't go searching for a mermaid, son, if you don't know how to swim." 'Cause her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her face it was a work of art. I loved that girl with all my heart, but I only liked the upper part, I did not like the tail. I signed on to a sailing ship my very first day at sea. I'd seen a mermaid in the waves, oh, reaching out to me. "Come live with me in the sea," she said, "down on the ocean floor, and I'll show you a million wondrous things you've never seen before." So over I jumped and she pulled me down to her seaweed bed. On a pillow made of tortoise shell she placed beneath my head. She fed me shrimp and caviar upon a silver dish. From her head to her waist she was just my taste, but the rest of her was a fish. 'Cause her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her face it was a work of art. I loved that girl with all my heart. I only liked the upper part, I did not like the tail. But then one day she swam away, so I sang to the clams and the whales. Oh, how I miss her seaweed hair and the silver shine of her scales. But then her sister, she swam by and she set my heart a whirl, 'cause her upper part was an ugly fish, but her bottom part was a girl. Oh, her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her legs they are a work of art. I love that girl with all my heart, and I don't give a damn about the upper part, 'cause that's how I get my tail. Isn't it? So that song is called "The Mermaid" and it's by Great Big Sea. It's very funny. It's well worth a listen. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, everyone, for all of the love tonight. Thank you to our wonderful barkeeps who keep everyone safe. Thank you to everyone who liked and shared over on TikTok. 23,000 likes on the live over on TikTok. I assume a lot of that came from Cindy. Thank you, Cindy. You guys are absolutely spectacular, all the love and support. And for everybody who tipped the Tavern Keeper tonight, Capitan, Quirt, Marina, Brian, Ashley, Sheerbliss, Nate, all of you, for everyone who spends their time and their attention and who throws any money at the Tavern Keeper, we appreciate you guys for it. You're absolutely wonderful, and it means the world to us. You always make my night lovely when I catch your lives. Thank you. Always a pleasure, Lily, and it's always good to see you, Eden. We'll be back out on Sunday for some waffles and for the lady to do some storytelling. So, Axel Thur and Mr. Descartes, welcome to the tavern, my friend. So very glad that you could join us. You've now marked us on your map, so you should be able to find your way back the very next time that we have a story. Now, if you're over on the Twitch portal, we're of course going to try to raid out to share the love if any of our friends are on. But for everyone else, so waffles is just what I rant and ramble. That's what I call waffling. It's become known as waffles because I waffle a bit. When I get caught up on a topic, we call it waffling. So much so that Milu over on Twitch has made an emote of a waffle with a speech bubble off of it because I waffle so much. Yeah, like what I did at the beginning. On Sunday, I take questions and stuff before the lady reads. So we'll talk about movies, we'll talk about books, we'll talk about shows and things. I let people ask me questions about mythology and other things like that. Mr. Descartes, you've got a great one. Well, thank you kindly, my friend. I appreciate it. For all the new folks here, by the way, I am Castle. This is my tavern. And here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. Tonight we read Harry Potter. On Sunday, the lady will be reading a book by Juliette Marie called The Child of Prophecy. Is that correct? Child of the Prophecy. And beforehand, before she gets on, when I have time, I'll get on and I'll do some waffles with everybody. I'm doing a story in Arthurian myth. Ooh, we love us a good Arthurian myth in the tavern. It is spectacular. I've actually done quite a few fun videos about Arthurian myth. You'll have to make sure you let us know what you're doing because we love a good Arthurian myth here in the tavern. We love it. And there are quite a few other aspiring authors and writers in the tavern, so if you want some motivation, we got some motivated writers here that kick in the behind. Mealy, you said Killshot is on. Okay, well then we'll probably go show some love to Killshot then. Killshot Kitty is a friend of mine. I've known her for a very long time. She is wild, but she's very fun. She's very funny. She's not as calm as we are. Off to put the kid to bed. I appreciate your tavern. Good night and thank you. Good night and thank you, Lily. I'm so glad you enjoy dropping in with us, and I hope that you enjoy all of the stories that we put out together. Going into it with November, with it hoping to get a lot done. Hell yeah. That we love to hear that. We love to hear that. All right, my friends, this is where we must end for tonight. And while it is very sad that we must part, always sad when we must part, don't worry. For the very next time that you seek a story, the tavern's doors shall open. But until then, I must bid you, my friends, stay bloodthirsty. And I will see you next time. Have a good night, friends. We'll see you again.
I'm trying to hold like the right trigger. It's not letting me like boost you or anything. What is this? Is there something this way maybe?